Hello one and all, my name is Ryo099 and today, as you can see, I am bringing you the deck profile from my Ice Barrier deck I made. I really like this deck. I think it is so fun. It's really good at combinations and just doing stuff that people wouldn't expect. I actually did run this in an online tournament yesterday. Excuse me. I've still got my bit of a sore throat. But I actually ran this on an online tournament, and some of the players was actually quite surprised of how well and some of the plays that we did actually worked. So I thought it'd be really fun to bring you the deck profile. I don't know why my camera's zooming in and out. So without further ado then, let's get on with the deck profile. But first of all, just want to show you the sleeves that I've been using for this one, and it is the Yugioh and Kuriboh sleeves, which I really do like. So without further ado then, let's get on with the deck profile. First of all, it is of course 3 copies of Revealer of the Ice Barrier. Now, if you don't know what this card does, you've only just looked at the deck profile, this is actually the structure decks. I just got 3 of them and added some cards in. But Revealer allows you to discard a card and special summon a tuner, well, an Ice Barrier tuner from your deck. And also, if you're going to be using cards for it and stuff, you can actually use herself, from the graveyard. If you discard a card or send a card from your hand to the graveyard, you can actually banish her instead. So it's really helpful there. So next up then, I run 2 copies of Speaker of the Ice Barrier. What this card actually does is, if you control another Ice Barrier monster, defense position monster as your opponent controls cannot change the battle positions, which is really helpful for this deck. So to go sort of into your combo plays. Also, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, if I'm not mistaken, once per turn, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is really good, and then you can banish it to create a token. The token I actually use, I will quickly show you, is of course one of the Spirit Charmer tokens, because I really like the artwork. So next up then, we run 3 copies of Hex's Spirit of the Ice Barrier. Hex's Spirit is really good, because if you control another Ice Barrier monsters, your opponent's monsters lose attack and defense. 500 attack and defense. My mind went there, sorry. 500 attack and defense. Also, you can send another Ice Barrier monster from your deck, and that's level 3 or lower, and its level actually becomes that. So it's really good because of Revealer. You discard a card, and summon him, send a card from your deck to the graveyard, and change its level. So next up then, we run 3 copies of Defender of the Ice Barrier. Now, a lot of them I've seen don't actually run 3 copies. Me personally, I do, because I think it is really good. What this is if you control another Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent control cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than or equal to this card's defense. As I said in the structure deck opening, I was actually running these before the sort got released, when it was in the OCG and you could use them online, and someone actually changed its defense to 0, so they couldn't attack at all. So it was really good. And it's a tuner as well, which is really important. So next up then, I run 2 copies of the Sujin of the Ice Barrier. I mainly use him just for Hex's Spirit. It's another card that you can discard, create level 2, and go into synchro plays. But as well, once when he's in the graveyard, if I'm not mistaken, just going to double check. Yeah, if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn he was sent there, you can target a level 3 or higher water monster you control, reduce its level by exactly 2, and if you do, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. So yeah, another good, handy little card to have. So next up then, I run 2 copies of Prior of the Ice Barrier. Now, Prior is a weird one again, because I actually do use him one of 2 reasons. One is, again, is with Hex's Spirit to create a level 2. The second one is actually, it's not its first effect. The fact that if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, because you can't special summon level 5 or higher monsters for the rest of the turn if you summon it this way, so it kind of stops your synchros. But the one I do is you contribute this card and then target a level 5, well, target 1 Ice Barrier monster, in your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon that target. I mainly use him for either Revealer or the next card on the list, but that's why I run Prior. And that next card I was on about is, of course, General Wayne of the Ice Barrier. This card is amazing for the deck, because if you spell and trap cards sent from the graveyard to your opponent's graveyard, sorry, are banished instead, so stuff like Eldritch, Phantom Knights, anything that requires certain spells or traps inside the grave, they get banished instead, which is really, really good. Not only that as well, but if you control an Ice Barrier monster and your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon him. And then when he's normal or special summoned, you can add an Ice Barrier spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So it's really, really good for that, because you can summon out Defender, your opponent controls a monster, or whichever one. Special summon him, add one of your Ice Barrier spell and traps, and then you can go into different plays as well. So that's why I really like General Wayne. So next up then is mainly just the one-offs of the Ice Barrier. I've won one copy of Strategist, just for the draw support. You can discard a card and draw a card. Next up then, again with same as Strategist, is Blizzard. If it's destroyed by battle, you get to draw a card. Well, if it's sent to the grave, sorry. Next one then is General Gunard of the Ice Barrier. The only reason I run him is because if you can get him into the graveyard, you can special summon him with a few of the returns I have, like Monster Reborn, stuff usual plays. And then also when he's on the field, during your main phase, you can normal summon one extra normal summon as well of an Ice Barrier. Of course, it's an Ice Barrier deck. So next up then, for the last Ice Barrier monster, is General Gantala. And the reason I run him, again, like Gunard, is you can return once per turn during your end phase. You can target one Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon it. So it's really, really good, because if you can get him out, you can bring back Defender, and then Defender stops your opponent from attacking. So next up then, for the monsters, it's the non-Ice Barrier ones. I run 2 copies of Silent Angler. Just because it's an easy special summon, because if you control a water monster, you can special summon this card. So some of the combos I'll explain at the end, but that's why I run 2 copies of them. You can't special summon from the hand the turn you activate its effect, which is a bit of a downside, but it works. Next up then, I run 2 copies of Barrier's Statue of the Torrent. If you've been watching my videos for a while, when I did like the maximum gold openings and the structure deck opening, I was actually talking about Barrier Statue for this deck, and because neither player can special summon except water monsters, and he is so easy to bring out. With this deck, there's a lot of cards that people can add that you can do, return, stuff like that, that can just bring out Barrier Statue of the Torrent, stop your opponent from special summoning monsters except water. And let's be honest, not many people actually run water these days. They might do now because of this. I've seen a lot of people kind of like it, but Barrier Statue of the Torrent I would recommend it as a 2 of. And then the last monster then, I'm going to butcher his name, is Motlin Glacier, the Elemental Lord. He's a really easy special summon for this deck. He's basically like Dark Armed Dragon. If you have exactly 5 water monsters, really easy to do it, you can special summon him. Which is really helpful since it's 2800 attack. Also, you can discard 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, or their entire hand if it's one or 2. Basically, if they've got 2 cards, you get rid of them. If they've got 1, they discard their entire hand anyway. The downside to him is when this face-up card leaves the field, you skip your next battle phase. But you kind of use him for that whole endgame board, get rid of your opponent's cards, go into him, do a lot of damage if you need to. So that is it then for the monster side of this deck. So next up then are the spells, and some of these are, I'm just going to say, are absolutely amazing. And some of them, I say some of them, I mean one of them. I'll explain why when I actually go into that part. But first of all, I run 2 copies of Winds of the Ice Barrier. This is a must if you run in this deck, in my personal opinion. As I said, this is a fun casual deck, but this deck can really utilise this card very well, because you contribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters and you special summon from your deck, as many level 4, Ice Barrier monsters with different names. Now, the good thing about that is, say if you have Revealer and Speaker, you can still special summon a Revealer and a Speaker because you're swapping them. So it's really, really helpful for that as well. That's normally what I do, as I normally ditch 2 of them to get Revealer into the graveyard to bring out another Revealer, just so I can still use their effect. Not only that as well, but during your main phase, except the turn this card is sent to the graveyard, so a lot of the cards have this effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished or in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So that's really good as well, because the card you're probably going to get rid of next turn, you're just going to banish it, return it back to your hand anyway. So I definitely recommend 2, maybe 3, but personally I just run 2. So next up then, we've got 2 copies of the Freezing Chains of the Ice Barriers. Now what this does is, when this card is activated, you can target a level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Stuff like Winds of the Ice Barrier, if you got this, you can special summon. And while you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters you currently control, well, Ice Barrier monsters in general, but I always use it as sort of end board sort of thing, that are unaffected by effects of your opponent's monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. You can only activate it once per turn as a hard once per turn, but it's really, really good. It gets back a level 4 monster, or level 4 lower, and you can do a lot of plays with it. So next up then is the only 3 of the spell cards, and that is Medallion of the Ice Barrier. Very simple. You can add an Ice Barrier monster from your deck to your hand. It's not once per turn. That's the best thing about Medallion, is it's not a once per turn effect. So you can use Medallion to add General Wayne, special summon General Wayne to add back another Medallion. So it's really, really good if you need to get something out or into your hand, ready for your plays. So next up then, for the one of, I run 1 copy of Mirror of the Ice Barrier, mainly because of a certain person that will probably watch this video. You know who you are. He likes to run zombies. And one of the main zombies I'm seeing at the moment is Doom King, or Balrog Doom King, whichever one, which allows your opponent to banish. That's where this card comes in. It's a quick play spell, so it's really, really good. And during the turn, each time a card is banished from your hand, field, and or graveyard by your opponent's activated monster effect, so Doom King. We actually tested it out, it does actually work. I don't know why it says activated, but yes, it does work with Doom King online. We tried it on EDO and it does work for some reason. Apply the following effects based on where the cards were banished from. Hand, you can banish up to 2 random cards, your opponent's hand. Field, you can banish up to 2 cards your opponent controls. And graveyard, you can banish up to 2 cards from your opponent's graveyard. So it's really, really helpful just to sort of catch them off guard if they're using something like Dark Law, for an example. Spin this out when he summons it. Boom. You can banish quite a lot. I'm just going to grab a quick drink because I can feel my throat starting to go. Nice drink there. Apologies there. So next up then for the ones, as I was saying, is Magic Triangle of the Ice Barrier. Now the only reason I've run 1 of is because it's kind of a weird effect to pull off with this deck, because you don't really want the Ice Barriers in your hand. You more want them in the graveyard, to be honest. But first turn, you can reveal 3 Ice Barrier monsters with different names from your hand, then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 of the Ice Barrier monsters from your hand. So it's really good actually if you need to pop a problem card if you can, and then you get special summon another Ice Barrier, which can go into a lot of plays. So next up for the spells then is the one of that isn't the Ice Barriers. Of course, we've got 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Everyone knows what it does. We've got 1 copy of Salvage. You can target 2 water monsters with 1500 or less attack in your grave. Add them back to your hand. Again, it's a bit of a weird one, but Speaker is really helpful there. We've got 1 copy of Surface. Target 1 level 3 or lower fish, sea serpent or aqua monster in your graveyard. Tuners. And special summon them in defense. Your tuners. That's literally what I use it for, is tuners. And 1 copy of Aqua Mirror Stage. I only use this for the top line of water monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle with a non-water monster. That's literally the only reason why I put this one in the deck, is just for that effect. And the last spell then is, of course, Mass Change 2. Now, some people, when I do mention Mass Change 2, are like, well, why would you run it? It's, you know, there's other stuff you could be running. The reason why I run Mass Change 2 is because one of my extra deck monsters is absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favourite cards to actually bring out in this deck. And as I said with the online tournament, I actually managed to surprise a very, very good Pendulum player with this card, and I will go into that more when we do. Most people will know what Mass Change 2 does, but if not, quick rundown: you discard a card and target one face-up monster you control that adds a level. And then what you do is you send it to the graveyard, and if you do that, you can basically special summon a masked hero monster from your extra deck with the same attribute but a higher level. That's mainly it. That's the rundown of Mass Change. And that's it then for the spells. Traps, very, very basic. I've run 2 copies of Crackdown. Really, really good card. Allows you to target an opponent's monster. I believe, yep. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls and take control of it. It can't attack or activate its effects. And when it leaves the field, destroys the card. And if you get rid of it, it returns to control, of course. But I actually use it in a loop, which some of you may know, but I'll go on to it at the end anyway. I won 1 copy of Ishiben. Me and my friend actually say Ichiban because it's a reference to Friends with Joey and the lipstick, and it sounds funny. But if a non-water monster is normal or special summoned while you control a water monster, change the summon monsters to defense. That's where Speaker comes in. If you control Speaker, they can't change them back. I've won 1 copy of Heavy Storm Duster, just as a backup if you need to get rid of a spell or trap. Mainly use it in your opponent's turn. And then 1 copy of Terror of Trishula. This is a really, really good trap, because you get to apply the effects depending on the number of Ice Barrier synchro monsters you control with different names. They're quite easy to get out with this deck. 1+, you banish 1 card your opponent controls. 2+, you banish 1 card your opponent's graveyard. And 3+, you get to banish 1 banned card from your opponent's hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Ice Barrier synchro monster you control, you can banish this card from the graveyard, negate the effect. You can only use it as a once per turn. So it's really, really good if you have one of the extra deck monsters on the field that banishes. There's still a card left. Flip over your tower. Really, really good. So that's it then for the main deck. The extra deck, just a quick thing about it. I am actually missing 1 card, and that is the Marine Cess Coral. I can't remember the last name. It's something like Ananami. She hasn't arrived yet. But I do run it's a link to, and basically you can return a level 3 or lower water monster from your graveyard to the zone she points to. So you get a special one, but that's the basic rundown of her. I thought I'd just mention it because she hasn't actually arrived yet, but hopefully she'll be here soon. So that's that. Yeah. Just thought I'd quickly mention it. So let's go on to the extra deck. Then, of course, I won 2 copies of the new Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This card is amazing for me. I absolutely love it. And I had to say absolutely, because why not? It's all fun. That's what we're here for. It's all fun and games. But it's a level 11 tuner, level 11 synchro that requires 1 tuner and 2 or non-tuners. Revealer, Speaker is your best combo to get this out. You summon Revealer, use effect, summon Defender, defend, because then if you control an Ice Barrier, you special summon your Seeker, boom, level 11, straight into your trash. What this card does then is, when it is synchro summoned, you can banish 3 cards your opponent controls. One of my friends actually asked me about this and says, well, can it get rid of Dragoon and stuff? I was like, yes, because it's a non-target, non-destructing effect. It just banishes them. So it's really, really good. Just thought I'd throw that in just in case he does watch. Yeah, he might do. Also, if the synchro summoned if the synchro summoned monster you control is destroyed by opponent's card, so either by battle or card effect, you can special summon the original Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier, who's still limited. Come on, limited list. We need that ban list soon. It's got to be soon. Its attack goes up to 3,300, and then half all the attack of face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. Also, the effects are negated. It doesn't have to be from the extra deck. You can special summon them from the graveyard as well. The original Trish, so it's really, really good. But yeah, 2 copies of Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. So next up then, everyone knows this card. It was going to be obvious following. It's 1 copy of the original Trish, because it's still limited. probably will stay limited, but yeah, one copy of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Everyone knows what it does. It's been out for ages and it's been used a lot. This one threw me off because it is the Lauren Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. Now, what threw me off is I thought we were going to get the other effect. We didn't. We got the hard once per turn, not the once per turn. So, what it does is, if you don't know, you can target any number of monsters you control, return those targets to the hand, and if you do, it gains 500 attack. For each card that was returned by this card's effect, you can only use it, the effect of the Lauren Tiger King of the Ice Barrier once per turn. The reason I said it like that is because I thought we were going to get the one that says once per turn, not the Lauren Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. I genuinely thought we were going to get that copy, so because it's got that hard once per turn, I genuinely think it's going to be coming off the limited list. Maybe semi-limited, maybe unlimited. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they will leave it as limited because there's no need to. You can only use one of them. And this is the card I was on about earlier with the Crackdown. This is the card I use for the loop. And what it does is you use your Crackdown, take control of your opponent's monster, summon this card out, return him back to the hand, he gains attack, and then you reset your Crackdown. And you can keep doing it as long as your opponent doesn't stop it. So that's why I use him. Plus, I love his artwork, and the Crackdown loop is actually really annoying. One copy of Bionic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Everyone pretty much knows what Bionic does. It's been out for a very long time. So I won't really go into it, but basically you can discard any number of cards, then target cards your opponent controls, and return them to the hand. Next up then, just for the Ice Barriers really, we run one copy of Gungnir, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Again, a card that's been out for quite a while, actually. But once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards to your graveyard, and then target the same number your opponent controls, destroy them. Very simple. Next up then, we've got one copy of Adamantipator Risen Dragite. And the reason he's in here is because he likes waters in the graveyard. They're all waters. Adamantipators are a really good deck for me. I do really love them, especially now with the fossils being released and stuff. There's just so much you can actually do with it for fun. Of course, we're getting the new fossils as well, so I will probably update that profile when they do come out. But one copy of Adamantipator Risen Dragite. Most people know what this card does because it's been out. Everyone pretty much knows who's played the game will know what Adamantipator's were capable of and still are. But yeah, I'm not going to go through with it because most people know it. But if you don't, just look it up. It's a really good card, and I have just lost some cards on the floor. I've just knocked them off my table. Oh dear me, what am I like? So next up then, I have one copy of the Glacier Beast Iceberg Narwhal. Because who doesn't like narwhals? But if you don't know what this card does, it's each time another monster you control is destroyed by opponent's attack or card effect, inflicts 600 points of damage. Not too bad. It's this effect. During the battle phase, whenever your opponent activates a card or effect while you control another monster, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. So it's really good for battle effects. If someone's got something that needs to be activated, oh well, I'm going to do this in the battle phase, you can just use it, negate it, destroy it. So it's really good, and it's another level 7. So it's really easy to bring out with this. So next up then, I want one copy of Deep Sea Prima Donna. She's a tuner herself, level 7. Quite good actually. I don't really use it that often, but sometimes I like to mix up the plays. So if your opponent controls, your opponent cannot target a synchro monster that was synchro summoned with this card. Hang on a minute, I've lost my mind here. Your opponent cannot target a synchro monster that this card used as material with monster effects. You can only use the effect of her once per turn. You can target one of your opponent's banished cards, add it to your hand, or special summon one level 4 or water monster from your deck. If you do, add that target to the hand. To their hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one banished card, shuffle it into the deck, your speaker. Or revealer. Whichever one. But that's what I use it for. It's a very confusing card. Next up then is, of course, the Mash Changed 2 and that is Masked Hero Acid. I really, really like Acid, because when it's special summoned, destroy as many spell and trap cards your opponent controls, and also if you do all monsters, they lose 300 attack. Against a Pendulum player, they would not want to see Acid, because it pops their scales, and that's how I surprised this other player. Is I used Mass Change 2 when he was doing plays and popped all his scales. He couldn't do anything. So it's a really, really good card. So next up then, I won 2 copies, of course, of Abyss Dweller. It gives water monsters a slight attack boost. Also, once per turn, quick fetch, you can detach a material, and your opponent cannot activate any card effects from the graveyard this turn. So really, really good to stop graveyard effects as well. Really, really helpful. 1 copy of number 101, start on the mark. Just for the detach to and steal a card. Target 1 special summoned monster your opponent controls in face of attack position and attach it to this card. Very, very helpful. And lastly then, because of course we're missing the other Link monster, which I said is the Marine Cess, I won 1 copy, of course, of my girl, Appaloosa Boulder Goddess, the lovely Maximum Gold Edition. I absolutely love Appaloosa. I think it is an amazing card, and the amount of special summoning you can do with this deck, it's quite easy to bring out. Most people know what she does. I think everyone who plays the game now will know what Appaloosa does. So I'm not going to go through with her because I do explain quite a lot. So with that then, that is the deck profile. I really hope you all enjoyed it and wonder what you actually think of this deck. Me personally, I think it's kind of fun. A lot of people don't expect it to be as annoying, if you want to say, as it should be, because of course Ice Barriers have a bit of a bad reputation from being in the older days. The Ice Barriers before was really bad. I did try and run them when they first came out. They couldn't do anything. This one you can. As I said, it was really, really fun facing off against the Pendulum player when I brought out Acid. I wouldn't recommend running the other one. Is it Vapor? I think it's Vapor. It's terrible. Run Acid if you're going to do it, but I love this deck, and I really hope you all do as well, because if you did, please leave this video a like, comment down below what you think of it, what cards you would add in, just to give it a bit of a discussion. I do read the comments and I will reply. Also, as I say at the end of all my videos, if you do want to see more things, hit that subscribe button for me, because when I hit 100 subscribers, or if I ever do, I will be doing a giveaway, and then for every 100 subscribers then I will be doing different giveaways. So 100, 200, 300, 400, etc, etc, etc. The more subscribers, the more giveaways I do. And so if you feel like it, hit that subscribe button for me. As I said, leave this video a like, comment down below what you think of this deck, what you would put in, what you didn't like about it, and as always, I will see you lot in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Thank you very much. Goodbye.